Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host Gershwin and you are watching OneMindSyndicate. Today we continue talking about the Inquisition as we get into one of the most famous Inquisitors, Inquisitor Gregor Eisenhorn. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day, and if you have any suggestions, comment down below. Now, I'm going to give you the warning now, spoiler alert, because we're going to go through the history as fast as we can of this awesome Inquisitor, and there are bits and pieces that are going to spoil either the book or the show that's coming up, so you are warned. If you guys enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on Gregor Eisenhorn. Gregor Eisenhorn is one of the Imperium's most famous inquisitors of the Ordo Xenos, one of the Inquisition's subdivisions, sometimes referred to as the Alien Hunters. Like many members of the Inquisition, Eisenhorn was a strict Puritan, a member of a faction within the Inquisition itself that believes that the Imperium as it stands is valid, divinely ordained, and worth fighting for. Therefore, Eisenhorn and all Puritan Inquisitors strive to maintain the current balance of power and the structure of the Imperium's military, church, and state. In their heart, events are unfolding as the Emperor had foreseen, and to force change in his name is a sign of supreme arrogance, for who can truly claim to know the will of the Emperor? Eventually, Eisenhorn would leave this ideology behind and adopt the more radical Xanathite belief, a set of doctrines that preach that the war and its denizens are things to be enslaved rather than denied. Eisenhorn would come to believe that chaos is no less an enemy that must be fought and defeated, but one ultimately that should be tamed, bound to humanity's will, and put to use in the Imperium service. Eisenhorn is several centuries old, yet roughly looks middle-aged due to his inquisitorial rejuvenant treatment. A powerful sanctioned psyker, Eisenhorn possesses considerable natural willpower and resolve, which combined with his pool of psychic powers, make him a potent telepath. He normally channels this psychic talent through his voice, compelling people to follow his instructions. Once clean-shaven and dark-haired, Eisenhorn was forced to permanently shave his head, accepting a crude augmetic assistance system, which can be seen projecting from the back of his head and encasing his lower limbs, which allow him to reasonably move, but he has taken to using a sword stick to aid him in his balance. He normally wears sober suits of dark gray or black under long blue or black high-collared coats. Underneath the coat could once be found his sword, sheathed to his hip. It is now fashioned into the sword stick, with a scabbard forming a walking cane. Born on Decair's world, Gregor Eisenhorn was taken at a very young age by the dreaded Black Ships, those ancient vessels that travel the stars collecting psychers, blanks, and just about anyone deemed worthy of becoming significant in the Imperium. In time, he became an acolyte of Inquisitor Habshund, where he studied alongside fellow Inquisition apprentice Titus Endor, and was elevated to the rank of full Inquisitor at the incredibly young age of 24. Carving out a stable and competent career, Eisenhorn eventually found himself being drawn into the events that would change the course of his life forever. During this time, Eisenhorn succeeded in ending the menace of the mass murderer, Murden Iclone, an investigation that is notable not only for bringing Goodwin Fishing and Elizabeth Beckwin into his employment as acolytes, but also for setting him in pursuit of both Pontius Glaw and the Necroteuch. Following leads from the Iclone investigation, Eisenhorn became tangled up with a heretical cabal in the world of Good Run, and in fact was briefly captured and tortured by one of its members, Gorgon Locke. The cabal was eventually broken by a full inquisitorial purge led by Inquisitor Volk. Eisenhorn was able to recover a device known as the Pontius from the cabal, and it later transpired that this device held the encoded brain engrams of the infamous and long-dead heretic Pontius Glaw, one of the Cabal's schemes that involved arranging his resurrection. Eisenhorn held Pontius Glaw captive and interrogated him regularly, before finally choosing to have the Pontius device incarcerated by Magus Bureau of the Adeptus Mechanicus. This decision would ultimately have a profound effect on Eisenhorn's future. Following up further leads from the Cabal Purge led Eisenhorn into one of his most famous investigations, the affair of the Necroteuch, a tome of chaos knowledge. Eisenhorn tracked the survivors of the heretical Good Run Cabal to a colony world inhabited by the Xenos, known as the Ceruthi. The Ceruthi had come into the possession of the copy of the Necroteuch and and had translated it into their own language, creating two versions of this powerful Chaos Tome and translating tool. The human Necroteuch tome, written in High Gothic, was quickly found and destroyed by Eisenhorn himself. Some radical inquisitors deemed this a heretical act and damned Eisenhorn for it. However, the majority of the local inquisitorial conclaves, which was dominated by Puritans, supported Eisenhorn's decision to burn the tome, outvoting the radicals. Eisenhorn was therefore spared from censure and was in fact instrumental in planning a raid on the Ceruthi homeworld, during which the remaining tainted items were destroyed. It was during this attack that Eisenhorn also first met Cherubel, a powerful demon host who would plague Eisenhorn and the Imperium in later endeavors. The following year, Eisenhorn investigated the apparent ritual murders on the world of Samter, at first believing the killings to be the work of some chaos cult. Soon, however, it was revealed that the culprits were actually ex-soldiers of the Astra Militarum. These former soldiers of Samter's 9th Infantry Regiment had been driven mad by the horrors they had faced in war and were ritually killing regular citizens. Backed by the arbitrators of the local Adeptus Arbitus, Eisenhorn managed to corner and eliminate the fanaticals in an abandoned and decaying building. During this resulting firefight, Eisenhorn lost his left hand to an experienced former sharpshooter. He was offered a bionic prosthetic but declined, making do with a fused stump until he could have a vat-grown hand grafted 2 years later. Years later, Eisenhorn's best friend and acolyte, Midas Benticor, was killed by the heretic Fade Thuring during an investigation. Thuring escaped, and Eisenhorn promised to keep a watchful eye on Midas's infant daughter, Medea. Years later, when she came of age, she would follow the path of her father and join the retinue of Inquisitor Eisenhorn as his pilot. 26 Terran years later, Eisenhorn began the investigation that he would become most famous for across the Imperium, the elimination of the heretic Inquisitor, Quixos. The investigation took place in the aftermath of a disaster of the Thracian Primaris Triumph, an atrocity that appeared to have been engineered to free several Alpha Plus rogue trader psychers from Imperial detention. Eisenhorn's investigation took him to the world of Ichan, where, posing as mutants, he and his team discovered that there were inquisitorial collusions in the scheme that had freed the rogue psychers. Inquisitor Lyco was discovered in the company of the demon host Cherubel. Taken aback by the reappearance of Cherubel, Eisenhorn focused his investigation upon the creature. This led him to the fortress world of Cadia, where he discovered another demon host, profanity, and ties between these demon hosts and the missing radical Inquisitor Quixos. However, Eisenhorn's investigation was sidelined for some time by his arrest by Inquisitor Ozma for allegedly consorting with the demons. Escaping, he was declared outcast by the Inquisition and forced to operate as a rogue for the remainder of the investigation. Eisenhorn sojourned with his Adeptus Mechanicus associate, Magus Bure, on the world of Sincair, where he conferred with his prisoner, Pontius Glaw. During this period, he defeated a chaos cult that existed on the world and gained master-crafted force weapons. Eisenhorn next assembled a small strike team of 3 other Inquisitors, and acting in concert with them, tracked down and confronted the renegade Inquisitor Quixos. Eisenhorn himself was the one who killed Quixos, recovering his heretical book, the Malleus Codicium, and banished both profanity and Cherubel to the warp. Eisenhorn was cleared of all charges against him at the conclusion of the investigation. Ironically, years later, Eisenhorn succeeded in secretly summoning the demon Cherubel and trapping him in the physical universe for interrogation and study. He dealt with the minor warp incursions of demons in Gudrun thereafter. Towards the end of his honorable career, Eisenhorn was able to avenge the death of Midas Benticor, but it came at a considerable cost. Killing the heretic Thuring cost him the lives of several associates, placed Bequin in a coma, and it resulted in the destruction of his personal starship, his gun cutter, and forced him to use the demon Cherubel as an ally. Now, to control Cherubel, Eisenhorn sacrificed the naive Puritan Inquisitor Bastian Vervac in an improvised chaos ritual. This foul misdeed was an important step on Eisenhorn's road to damnation. Shortly afterwards, Eisenhorn was the victim of a carefully planned attack orchestrated by Pontius Glaw, who had escaped the Inquisition's captivity and decided to punish and torment his captors. Almost every facade of Eisenhorn's life was brought crashing down around him, including his career, as he was once again declared an outcast by Inquisitor Ozma and Haldane. His organization shattered, his own body broken, and much of his retinue dead, Eisenhorn was eventually able to call on aid from his former pupil, Gideon Ravenor, who was now a full Inquisitor. With Ravenor's assistance, Eisenhorn was able to track Pontius down and eliminate him for good. However, the Pontius affair did more than deplete Eisenhorn's physical resources. It also finally broke down his resistance to employing radical methods of fighting chaos and the Imperium's other enemies. He began to travel with Cherubel as his constant companion. Eisenhorn largely dropped out of sight after the Pontius affair, despite his outcast status apparently being removed once again by the Inquisition. He has reappeared for only brief moments in the years following to recruit new acolytes or confer with past associates, such as warning Gideon Ravenor about the intentions of the chaos cult known as the Divine Fraternity. Later, members of the cult discussed Eisenhorn and suggested that he had been killed fighting their followers, as he was inside a building that was bombed, and Eisenhorn subsequently vanished from their psychic foresight. The truth of his death can be disputed. And those were 40 facts on Gregor Eisenhorn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, share it with your friends and thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's $1 a month, so thank you ahead of time. It's going to be interesting to see what the show does with the Eisenhorn story, because there's like 4 or 5 books already out, and they're really good. They're really entertaining, so we're going to see what changes, what lore adaptations are done for the show. The most important part and the thing that I'm looking forward to is the acolytes, because Eisenhorn's retinue of acolytes is pretty big, and they're all pretty badass, and they show like a very diverse, or they showcase how 40K can be very diverse. We're going to do a 40 facts video on each acolyte in the future, so stay tuned, subscribe for that, and can't wait to talk to you guys in the comments section about what you think of this new show. With that said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gersh1 with OneMindSyndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.